it's Caitlin from C-SPAN. Did you know that C-SPAN has been serving the American people for 45 years? Since our founding in 1979, C-SPAN has been documenting history with a unique approach, unfiltered, without commentary, and entirely independent from government funding. C-SPAN is funded by fees from our cable and satellite distribution partners. And now, with fewer people subscribing to cable and satellite, we're asking you to help support our next 45. Your contribution helps to ensure that we can continue to provide unfiltered, complete coverage of government proceedings on TV, online, on radio, and our mobile app, as well as context through newsletters, social media, and podcasts. Join us in preserving this legacy of access to the democratic process. Make your tax-deductible donation today at cspan.org/donate. Thank you.
This week, 2024 campaign trail followed Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump as he was on the road in Georgia, raising money for his campaign and meeting with locals at a Chick-Fil-A. And President Biden, as he talked about efforts to boost support for family caretakers and provide relief for student loan borrowers. Also, a look at independent presidential candidate Cornell West's announcement of his vice presidential running mate. But first, a look at remarks from former President Trump, released on video by his campaign, calling for abortion policy to be set at the state level. And after that, reaction from Vice President Kamala Harris.
Under my leadership, the Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, and healthy American families. We want to make it easier for mothers and families to have babies, not harder. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious baby. What could be more beautiful or better than that? Today, I'm pleased that the Alabama legislature has acted very quickly and passed legislation that preserves the availability of IVF in Alabama. They really did a great and fast job. The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life and the side of mothers, father, their beautiful babies, and that's what we are. IVF is an important part of that, and our great Republican Party will always be with you in your quest for the ultimate joy in life. Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith. Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. Do what's right for our country and vote. So important to vote. At the end of the day, it's all about will of the people. That's where we are right now, and that's what we want, the will of the people. I want to thank the 6 justices, Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, incredible people, for having the courage to allow this long-term, hard-fought battle to finally end. This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something. Now it's up to the states to do the right thing. Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. You must follow your heart of this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently, and very sadly, a nation in decline.
The former president, yet again, declaring how proud he is of his responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. He yet again said he's proudly responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. And one has to ask, proudly responsible that 1 in 3 women of reproductive age now live in a state with an abortion ban? Proudly responsible that doctors and nurses can now be jailed in some states for life for providing care? Proudly responsible that states have passed bans with no exception even for rape or incest? And let's all be very clear, if he were to be put back in a position where he could sign off on a law, he would sign off on a national abortion ban. Let's be very clear about that. And that obviously makes the contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump quite clear. We are very clear, and Joe Biden has been clear. If Congress passes a law reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, Joe Biden will sign it into law. So we protect and we believe in a woman's decision and ability to make a decision based on what is in her best interest, not having her government tell her what to do. And we are proud of that position. Thank you.
The Biden-Harris campaign intends to continue pushing the abortion issue as it seeks to shore up support from voters, particularly in states where restrictive new laws have been enacted. A new Emerson College poll of Florida voters showed a majority, 57%, thought a new 6-week abortion ban was too strict. Former President Trump held a number of fundraisers this past week, including one in Palm Beach, Florida, that raised more than $50 million in a night. Next, former President Trump's remarks going into that fundraiser.
It's going to be a very spectacular evening, and people are just wanting change. The rich people want it, poor people want it, everybody wants change. Our country is really doing poorly. We're a laughing stock all over the world, and we're going to get that change very quickly. And this has been some incredible evening before it even starts, because people, they wanted to contribute to a cause of making America great again, and that's what's happened. We're going to make America great again. Everyone knows it. The election's going to be in now a little more than 6 months, and it's going to be the most important, I believe, election we've ever had. I think it's going to go down as the most important date in the history of our country. That's November 5th, will be the most important date in the history of our country. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution newspaper reported a later lunch event in the Atlanta area was expected to rake in more than $5 million for Mr. Trump's campaign. Among those on hand for the event, former Republican Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, Georgia Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, and Home Depot co-founder Bernie Marcus. Mr. Trump also visited a Chick-Fil-A location while he was in the Atlanta area. Next, some highlights from that stop.
Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly. So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. It's the will of the people.
New inflation numbers came out this morning showing inflation going up more than what economists were expecting. Do you believe there's any chance inflation gets under control between now and November?
Biden has totally lost control of inflation. It's back. It's raging back. The number today was very high, very bad. It's actually much higher because they exclude various categories. It's actually much higher than that. The number is out of control. Biden has no idea what the hell he's doing. He's the worst president in the history of our country. And I have something, but I have some good news. Where's Brian Jack? Come here. This is a man I've known for a long time. He's running in Georgia 3. He's going to be a fantastic congressman. District 3, Brian Jack. He's a great guy. He's been with me for 7 years, and he's always wanted to run for Congress, and this is where he was born, where he grew up. He knows it well. He loves the people. He will be fantastic. Do you know who Brian is? You do now. Good-looking people. Wow. That was worth it. And I love those, what you have there. Let me see. That's beautiful. Wow. It's art, right? How you doing? Everything okay? So can I have 30 milkshakes? And also some chicken. And we're going to take care of the customers. Is business good? You're making a lot of money? Everyone's getting rich, right? Excellent.
It's got a great American franchise, Chick-Fil-A.
It is. It's a great franchise. The owner is a great man who is a member of one of my clubs, and he's fantastic. And yeah, they do very well. They're closed on Sunday.
It's the Lord's Chicken.
That's the Lord's Chicken. You're right. It's good chicken, too. Hello, everybody. Get ready for a milkshake. You got plenty of it.
All right. This is an original from 2016.
Oh, I love this guy. I like that guy. Do you have a pen for me? Give me a good pen. That is the original, huh?
From 2016, Cleveland.
You've been there from the beginning.
Absolutely. From the convention.
You knew what was happening. You got it.
I do. I put canvassers together, so all these HBCU students that you see here, I brought them here to meet you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we've also knocked doors for you in the past for your past re-election bid and when you ran the first time. Yes.
Wow.
I was interning for the GAGOP at that time
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Wow.
Doing a lot for your tax credit reform bill and everything like that.
Well, we
so,
took care of those colleges. And
Sure did. Much better than Biden did. So I want to thank you for that. This is Clark Atlanta. This is Spelman. This is Morehouse. This is Morris Brown. They all came
Isn't that
in.
great?
So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you.
We love you.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come
for
here,
a
let
while.
me give you a hug.
Please
You answered some questions about abortion, but do you think a doctor should be punished who perform abortions?
I'll let that be to the states. You know, everything we're doing now is states and states' rights. And what we wanted to do is get it back to the states, because for 53 years it's been a fight. And now the states are handling it. And some have handled it very well, and the others will end up handling it very well. And those are the things that states are going to make a determination about. Okay?
Why should the people of Atlanta vote for you?
Because I've done more for the people of Atlanta than any other president by far. I've done more for the black community than any other president since Abraham Lincoln, and maybe including Abraham Lincoln, frankly, but since Abraham Lincoln. And it looks like our polling is very good in the state of Georgia overall, so we're very happy about it. But you see the support. It's been really something special.
Thank you.
Who you got for the Masters, Mr. President? The Masters. Who you got for?
Well, I have a lot of guys. They're all friends of mine. Every one of those players is a friend of mine, so I better not pick. But you have some great ones, and you're gonna have some. It's gonna be some competition. You're gonna have some. Dustin's been great. He's playing great. Rory's playing great. They're all playing great. The fact is, they're very good golfers. The Masters is this weekend, and it's going to be special, and it's right around the corner, right?
It is.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
time.
Brad. Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This month marked the beginning of the second fundraising quarter of the year, giving reporters and analysts a chance to look back at how the campaigns fared in the first quarter. USA Today reported President Biden and the Democrats had more than twice as much cash on hand as former President Trump and the Republican National Committee. Next, a conversation from our Washington Journal morning program on some of those numbers.
One of the things that I know you've been tracking is the all-important money race when it comes to election 2024. What's the latest on fundraising numbers for the Joe Biden and Donald Trump campaigns?
Right. So the Biden campaign announced this weekend that they entered April with $90 million on cash on hand. Or they raised $90 million in March. That's a huge total and comes as the Biden campaign in DNC has already had a huge cash advantage over former President Trump and the Republican National Committee. The DNC and Biden campaign was boosted this month by two big fundraisers. Biden got a huge grassroots fundraising surge after his kind of fiery State of the Union address early last month. And he also hosted a kind of star-studded fundraiser with former Presidents Clinton and former President Barack Obama last month in New York that brought in $25 million and was what the campaign said was the largest political fundraiser of all time. Important though, this weekend, the Trump campaign hosted a fundraiser at his home in Mar-a-Lago where his campaign said he raised $50 million. That's obviously a massive, massive total and is really crucial to the Trump campaign's fundraising, as like I said, they have been lagging the Biden campaign and DNC in fundraising through this entire cycle so far. And so it's certainly going to give the Trump campaign a boost and kind of also sends this strong message that the wealthy Republican donors are starting to line up behind Trump as he looks ahead to November.
You mentioned two kinds of fundraising, grassroots fundraising and then the big dollar star-studded events. For both these campaigns, is it 50-50? Does one campaign do more of the big dollar side than the other? Is one more focused on the grassroots? What do we know about breaking down where the money's coming from?
Yeah, so the Biden campaign in their announcement this weekend said that their grassroots donations kind of fueled a lot of their donations and their fundraisers and their fundraising this during the first quarter. And grassroots donations are a huge sign of enthusiasm and support among voters for a campaign. These grassroots donations are considered donations under $200. And so these aren't necessarily going to necessarily be, as splashy as the fundraiser, for instance, that former President Trump had this weekend, which is really, really big ticket numbers. But at the same time, in November, kind of what matters is these voters who turn out. So the grassroots donations are a key sign of enthusiasm for a campaign. And both Biden and Trump are appealing to these grassroots donors. Trump has, repeatedly sends out fundraising calls following speeches and rallies, and if he has a court appearance, for instance. And so both of these campaigns are appealing to these grassroots donations, and they're sort of trying to balance between appealing to the large donors to help fund their campaign while also ensure that on-the-ground support and grassroots donors are very excited for their candidacy.
The first quarter ending, of course, on March 31st. These fundraising announcements usually come right at the end of the quarter, and then you can dig through the reports yourself once they're fully released. When are they fully released? When can reporters actually get their hands on these FEC reports?
So those are coming at the middle of April, and also later this month, something that's interesting, the joint fundraising committees will also be required to file their public filings with the FEC. And so that will be the first time that we have a very good look at Trump's joint fundraising committees, because these candidates raise through a various number of vehicles for fundraising. And so I think that will be a first real look at sort of Trump's money across his various committees.
And then there's outside groups who are gearing up to spend heavily on election 2024. Anything interesting on that front that you've seen in this first quarter of this election year?
Yeah, so on the Democratic side, outside groups have really pledged to spend a lot of money on Biden's reelect campaign. And the Biden campaign is sort of leaning into this messaging as a way to show that Democrats across the board are very unified around his candidacy. Going forward, I think that we'll see that outside groups are going to ramp up their spending on both sides. Of course, it's only April. This general election has essentially been, we've sort of been in general election mode for the last month now. So this is gearing up to be the longest and what could be the most expensive general election campaign in recent history. And so I do think that we can expect to see these campaigns continue to appeal to the grassroots donors and obviously big donors, but at the same time, these outside groups have a lot of time to donate ahead of November. And quite frankly, these campaigns will need that money.
President Biden made two campaign stops this week, one in Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, where he talked about efforts to support families who need help taking care of children and elderly relatives. And from Wisconsin, he talked about additional efforts to forgive student debt. Next, highlights from those speeches.
It's a lot different from when college tuition was more affordable and borrowing for colleges, repaying those loans was more reasonable. Today, too many Americans, especially young people, are saddled with unsustainable debts in exchange for a college degree. The ability for working and middle-class folks to repay their student loans has become so burdensome that a lot can't repay it for even decades after being in school. And I mean that sincerely. Many of you know that sitting in front of me. Even when they have worked hard and pay their student loans, their debt increases, not diminishes. Too many people feel the strain and stress, wondering if they're can get married, have their first child, start a family, because even if they get by, they still have this crushing debt. That's not it's not just a drag on them, it's a drag on our local economies. It's a drag on, no, it really is. It's a drag on the economies. When you can't afford to buy a home, start that small business, chase that career that you've been dreaming about for a long time. That's why early in my term I announced a major plan to provide more than 40 million working and middle-class Americans student debt relief. Tens of millions. Tens of millions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked us. But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternative paths to reduce student debt payments. Today, I'm proud to announce 5 major actions to continue to relieve student debt from more than 30 million Americans since I started my administration. First, my administration will propose a new rule to cancel up to $20,000 in runaway interest for any borrower that owes more now than when they started paying the loan. It's a big difference. And for low and middle class families enrolled in my SAVE program, we'll cancel all of your interest, Second, we plan to cancel student debt for borrowers who still owe student loans even though they started repaying them more than 2 decades ago. Folks, third, we plan to cancel debt for about 2 million borrowers who would be eligible for debt forgiveness through the SAVE program, public service loan forgiveness, or other debt canceling programs, but are not enrolled in these programs. Some of you are only finding out after the fact, as you're a teacher, a firefighter, a cop, that you qualify, but you just didn't know about it before. And now but you're eligible no matter how long you've been out of the program. Fourth, we plan to cancel debt for borrowers who the Department of Education determines were cheated by universities that left students with unaffordable loans and delivered little in benefits to students. And one of those colleges was closed. I won't mention it. And finally, the Department of Education will propose a new rule to cancel student debt for Americans facing financial hardships, from child care to health care, to prevent them from paying back their loans. And over the coming months, the Department of Education will propose and then implement these plans. And starting this fall, we plan to deliver up to $20,000 in interest relief to over 20 million borrowers and full forgiveness for millions more. Look, you care workers represent the best of who we are as Americans. No, you really do. We look out for one another in America. We leave nobody behind. Nobody behind. And you've said all the heroes and the lives you've talked about. Well, you're our heroes. You're the heroes to so many individuals. You really are. And you represent so many people who do it, and do it out of love and concern, not because of the pay, because they're not getting the pay they need. It matters. As your president, I'm here with a simple message. I give you my word. I have your back. I have your back. If we want the best economy in the world, we have to have the best caregiving economy in the world. We really do. They're not inconsistent. They're consistent. But the cost of care is too high, and pay for care workers is much too low. For working families with small children, we're going to guarantee affordable quality child care. Most families, from our plan, most families will pay less than $10 a day per child, saving millions of folks as much as $7,000 a year. That's a lot of breathing room for young families who need it badly. We'll also restore the expanded child care tax credit, lifting millions of children out of poverty. And by the way, this helps the economy. It doesn't hurt it helps the economy. You know, our Republican friends let that expire. Well, we got to expire a couple of them politically in order to get this passed. Together, we're going to bring it back. Second, seniors and people with disabilities, we're going to expand Medicaid home care services and reduce that 700,000 person backlog. That'll mean more folks can live and work in their own communities with dignity and independence. More home care workers will start getting a better pay and benefits and dignity they deserve. By the way, if anybody's listening besides all of us, we agree on this. This is really, we're deadly earnest. This is not a joke. It matters. Third, for everyone caring for a loved one, my budget would finally create a national paid family and medical leave program. Finally. Up to 12 weeks to care for a newborn, a sick loved one, or yourself without losing your income. Look, it's past time America caught up with the rest of the world on paid leave. And folks, all this helps families and it grows the economy. It grows the economy. And we can afford to do it. To put it another, we can't afford not to do it. Look, I'm a capitalist, but I want to make sure that, if you make $1 million, great. Just start paying your fair share in taxes. But let me ask you, does anyone here think this tax code is fair? Raise your hand. I don't either. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut, overwhelmingly benefiting the very wealthy and the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit more than any other president has. We've cut the deficit, by the way. It added more to the national debt than any presidential term in history, and it's due to expire next year. And guess what? I hope to be president because it expires. It's going to stay expired. Stay expired. And look, when it comes to Social Security and Medicare, my predecessor recently said, quote, there's a lot you can do in terms of cutting. God love him. Right on cue, House Republicans released their budget that would raise the retirement age of Social Security, the budget they submitted for next year, and slash Medicare while they cut taxes for the very wealthy again. I got a better idea. I'll protect Social Security and Medicare and make the very wealthy pay their fair share to make it work.
Last, a look at the announcement from independent presidential candidate Cornell West of his vice presidential running mate.
I am very blessed. It is my great joy to announce my dear sister. She was one of the great freedom fighters of her generation, one of the great love warriors of her generation. She's a doctor, she's a professor. Most importantly, she's a lover of the people. Her name is Malina Abdullah. Sister Malina Abdullah. This campaign is very much a movement, it's a moment in the movement of a great people, though, man. And I wanted somebody whose heart, mind, and soul is committed to the empowerment of poor and working peoples of all colors, even though we always begin on the chocolate side of town, as you know. And Malina has a history of longevity, of putting her heart, mind, soul, and body in the struggle. She's been to jail many times. She's hit the road many times. She's been chairman of the Department of Pan-African Studies at California State, LA, many times. She has a record of deep commitment and investment in ensuring that poor and working people are at the center of her vision. Another way of putting it, my brother, is that I wanted to run with someone who would put a smile on the face of Fannie Lou Hamer and Martin Luther King Jr.'s from the grave. Put a smile on their faces from the grave. Now, that's the highest standard, as you know. That's not a typical standard of the garden variety politicians. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Not at all. I'm talking about somebody whose spirit, somebody whose heart, somebody whose intellect, somebody whose vision has been year after year, decade after decade, committed to the empowerment of those Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth. And that's my dear sister Melina.
What we're offering is a different choice. What we're offering is a choice that says we can move forward a vision that says we want to free Palestine. We can move forward a vision that says we want community care, not police in our communities. We can move forward a vision that says, education should be free and should be quality. We can move forward something that says, we're not going to roll you back so you can never afford housing, right? We're going to make sure you have what you need. And I think that's going to ignite the youth vote.
A reminder, this program and all of C-SPAN's Campaign 2024 coverage can be found online at cspan.org/campaign.